become the person who can easily read 50+ books in a year. Imagine this. In 1 year, you could absorb the insights of 52 books. You'd carry more knowledge, sharper motivation, and a greater drive to act. Last year, I read 91 books. While my job involves reading and I've built up speed, I'm convinced that anyone can read a book a week with the right strategy. It's not about being a naturally fast reader. It's about building a system that makes reading inevitable. Reading more books is one of the best investments you can make in your life. Every book you read increases your knowledge and motivation, and contrary to popular opinion, makes it more likely you'll take action, not less.
What happens when you read a book I find absolutely stunning. Here's some product of a tree with little black squiggles on it.
Right.
You open it up, and inside your head is the voice of someone speaking who may have been dead 3,000 years. And yet there he is talking directly to you. What a magical thing that is.
Reading, closing the book, summarizing what you've read without opening the damn book, that's useful. And the reason for that is that you're practicing remembering. And that's what you have to practice. If you're practicing memorization, you have to practice remembering.
If you ignore books and all the lessons that they have, then your world is just going to get narrower and narrower and narrower and narrower. You're not going to be creative, you're going to be frustrated, and bad things will happen to you.
Here are 9 strategies that make it possible. Always have a good book with you. You can't read a book you don't have. We have at our fingertips an inescapable flood of videos, news, text messages, and social media posts. But for most of us, the number of books within arm's reach that we're genuinely excited to read is usually 0. The first way to fix this is to install an e-reader app on your phone and load it with books. Borrow them from your library or pick public domain books if you're worried about cost. If you prefer paper, then resolve to lug around a paper copy in your bag as you go about your day. Having a book doesn't guarantee you'll read it, but it is a prerequisite. Keep all 3 book types stocked. I always have at least one of each of the following on the go: a paper book, an audio book, and an e-book, sometimes multiples of each. While listening to a book differs from reading one, and screens and pages don't feel the same, the advantage of multimodal reading is that it allows you to read in more situations. I can listen to an audiobook while I'm doing the dishes, but can't easily read the same book as a paperback while doing chores. I can read a few digital pages while waiting in line at the bank, but I'm unlikely to whip out a hardcover. Don't finish every book. Often, the biggest obstacle to reading more books is a book you've lost interest in, yet still tell yourself you're going to finish. It lies on your nightstand, collecting dust, while you binge a Netflix show instead. Let go of the need to finish every book, and instead focus on reading books you're genuinely eager to read. Delete social media apps from your phone. Most people I've shared the always have a book strategy with have struggled to get much reading done on their phone. The reason is simple. They have too many other options that have lower cognitive effort, social media, news, and more. If you ditch those apps and stick to Kindle instead, you'll get more reading done in those spare moments when you have your phone but not a book. Read before bed. Aiming to read for 15 minutes right before bed. This automatically creates time every day for reading, which adds up, but it also encourages you to sleep a little earlier than staying on a screen. Build an anti-library. Most people have shelves full of books they have read. Italian scholar Umberto Eco instead kept an anti-library, shelves full of books he hadn't read yet. Having a large list of books you haven't read, but would like to read, can spur you to read more. This can be a physical bookshelf, full of interesting books you haven't read yet, but it can also be a digital to read list full of suggestions.
If I were to read a book a week for my entire adult lifetime, and I lived an ordinary lifetime, when I was all done, I would have read maybe a few thousand books, no more. In this library, that's from about here roughly to about here. But that's only 0.1% or so of the total number of books in the library. The trick is to know which books to read.
Design a reading project. If I read books purely because I found each one interesting, I'd read half or a third as many books as I do. Instead, most of my reading is project-based. I decide what topic I want to deepen my knowledge about, and then craft reading lists around it. Ask yourself what you're interested in, then find a good list online of books about that topic, or ask AI, and aim to work through several of the titles from that list. The advantage of a reading project is that the motivation to master a topic is often greater than the motivation to finish any particular book. Additionally, only reading 1 or 2 books on a topic often leaves you with a fairly shallow understanding of it. Deeper insights often emerge only after reading several books that examine the topic from different credible angles. Talk about books with friends. Sharing what you learn from books is one of the best ways to motivate yourself to keep reading. Formal book clubs are an obvious way to make use of social motivation, but so are informal chats with friends who read. Especially if your interests overlap, you can swap insights from different books, thus adding to each other's recommendations. If you're not surrounded by avid readers, posting brief notes and takeaways from your reading on social media can be a good habit to cultivate. It keeps you accountable and forces you to reflect on what you've read.
Everything we read would be translated as best we could into some reality, so that I learned to do that. That everything I read, I try to figure out what it really means, what it's really saying by translating.
Mortimer, you're a smart guy. Why does it take you so long to read?
Well, it sometimes takes me long and sometimes a short time to read a book. I can read 10 books in one day in the sense of inspecting them, finding out what they're about and putting them on my shelf for future reference.
And deciding whether you want to read them or not.
Carefully or not. But just as I can read 10 books in one day, sometimes it takes me 10 days to read one book, or even longer than 10 days, because I'm really working at it. I'm trying to make that book part of myself. I'm trying to find out everything it says and understand everything it means, and think about and criticize what I've learned from it. And when I do that, I'm working. I'm not just sitting back in a chair idly. I'm not about to go to sleep.
See yourself as a reader. Reading a book per week may sound daunting. Depending on how many books you read now, it may even seem impossible. Ultimately, reading is like any other habit. It begins as a change in behavior, but it is sustained by a change in identity. If you see yourself as a reader, someone who reads a lot of books for fun and for curiosity, you will become one. The problem of reading books isn't about how fast you read, how you take notes, or the right technique. Instead, it's about motivation and training, wanting to be the kind of person who reads a lot of books, and developing the mental capacity to stick with it. If you can see yourself as the kind of person who reads a book every week, you're at least halfway to becoming one.